On a sunny afternoon on a bustling city avenue, the lives of two men were about to intersect in an unexpected way. Benjamin, a man with silver hair and a serene gaze, was driving his modest car through the quiet streets of his neighborhood. Despite his advanced age, Benjamin maintained a remarkable skill behind the wheel, a result of years of caution and patience. Dressed simply in a faded flannel shirt and denim trousers, he embodied simplicity and tranquility. Meanwhile, Andrew, a 25-year-old, drove his luxurious sports car, a gift from his last birthday given by his father, a high-ranking executive at a renowned investment firm. Andrew, with his hair meticulously styled and wearing a watch worth more than some cars, personified the arrogance and recklessness typical of someone who had never faced significant hardships in life. Their destinies crossed when a lost and frightened puppy found its way into the middle of the busy avenue, right in front of Benjamin's car. Instinctively, Benjamin turned the steering wheel to avoid hitting the animal, but in doing so, his car skidded and scraped along the shiny side of Andrew's sports car. The sound of metal scraping metal echoed through the air, and within seconds, Andrew emerged from his car, his face red with anger. Benjamin, maintaining his calm, stepped out of his vehicle, looking sadly at the damage but relieved that he had saved the small dog. "Are you blind? Look what you did to my car!" Andrew yelled, pointing to the dent on the side of his vehicle. "I apologize, young man. It was an accident. I was trying to save that puppy," Benjamin explained calmly, pointing to the dog trembling on the sidewalk. "I don't care about your reason. Do you know how much this will cost? You're going to pay every penny. You useless old man!" Andrew continued to shout, drawing the attention of passing pedestrians. Benjamin, with a sigh, merely nodded. "As you wish, young man. Let's resolve this however you think best." Andrew, taking his phone out of his pocket, began to take pictures of the damage, sending them immediately to his father, waiting for a response on how to proceed. As Andrew continued his torrent of complaints and threats, Benjamin remained calm, his tranquil expression hiding any sign of irritation or fear. A crowd of onlookers began to form, drawn by the scene of the wealthy young man vociferating against the modestly appearing elder. Among the spectators, a young woman approached, offering help. "Sir, can I call the police to help resolve this?" she asked, concerned about the situation. "No, that won't be necessary, my dear," Benjamin replied with a gentle smile. "I appreciate your concern, but we'll sort this out without involving more people." Meanwhile, Andrew received a message from his father instructing him to get Benjamin's insurance details and let the insurance company handle the incident. Frustrated that he couldn't do more at the moment and lacking the expected support for a more direct confrontation, Andrew calmed down a bit, but not without casting one last look of disdain at Benjamin. "You're going to pay for this," Andrew muttered, getting back into his car. Benjamin just nodded, showing no reaction, and carefully secured the rescued puppy, placing it in his car before exchanging contact and insurance information with Andrew. With the situation temporarily resolved, each went their own way. Andrew returned home, still boiling with anger, while Benjamin took the puppy to the vet, ensuring the little animal was safe and healthy. In the days following the incident, Andrew found himself unable to forget the unpleasant encounter. Although he had sent Benjamin's insurance information, something about the elderly man's serenity deeply bothered him. He couldn't stop thinking about the way Benjamin had treated him. Despite his insults and arrogance, Andrew tried to distract himself with his everyday life, attending parties and social gatherings, but the image of the frightened puppy and the calm old man continued to haunt his mind. In a moment of irritation, he decided he needed some form of revenge, or at least a way to prove to himself that he was in control. He began to investigate Benjamin on his own, looking for something he could use to publicly humiliate him. However, his searches led nowhere. The few pieces of information he found were about a man who seemed to have an impeccable reputation in the community, known for his charity and kindness. Meanwhile, Benjamin continued his life with tranquility. He had adopted the puppy he saved from the accident, whom he named Lucky, and often took him on walks through the city streets. People in the neighborhood knew Benjamin as someone who always helped others, whether through wise advice or by performing small acts of charity. A month after the incident, during a morning walk with Lucky, Benjamin was approached by a local journalist who was conducting a series of reports on unsung heroes of the community. Benjamin, with his characteristic humility, spoke about the importance of caring for each other and how small acts of kindness can make a big difference. The story of Benjamin and Lucky was published in the local newspaper, and unknowingly, Andrew read the article. The way Benjamin was portrayed, as a man with a big heart and respect for life, even that of a small animal, began to torment Andrew. After the incident with Benjamin, Andrew, although initially shaken, quickly reverted to his usual arrogance fueled by status and wealth. His behavior became even more reckless and disdainful, especially in situations involving people he considered inferior in social or financial status. One day, while visiting an exclusive club, he got involved in a heated argument with a waiter over a wrong order, ending with Andrew humiliating the young worker in front of everyone present. He not only demanded that the waiter be fired, but made a point of insulting him with harsh and contemptuous words. This behavior began to attract disapproving glances, even from his closest friends. Meanwhile, Christopher, Andrew's father, was facing his own battles. Known for his aggressive and often unethical business tactics, he was willing to steamroll anyone to achieve his goals. His reputation was beginning to affect the company, with several business partners expressing concern about the methods he employed to close deals. At various meetings, Christopher was warned by his superiors to moderate his behavior, but he ignored these warnings, confident that his position in the company was unshakable. Inspired by the lack of repercussions for his own actions, Andrew continued to push the limits. He began using his status to influence minor legal disputes, helping friends in dubious court cases, and using his money to cover up minor incidents that could have tarnished his family's public image. The turning point occurred during an extravagant party at the family mansion. Andrew, drunk and exuberant, caused a major scandal by trying to expel some guests he deemed unworthy of his presence. The party ended in chaos, with offended guests leaving the venue in disgust, and the event was widely covered in the local media. Christopher, upon discovering the incident, was furious. He confronted Andrew harshly, not because of the morality of his actions, but because it was disrupting the business. "You're becoming more of a burden than an heir," Christopher shouted during a heated argument. The tension between father and son only grew, and the situation at the investment company began to deteriorate. Clients and partners were distancing themselves, bothered by the negative publicity and Christopher's questionable methods. As the months went on, the tension between Christopher and Andrew only worsened. Christopher, already pressured within the company due to his aggressive leadership, found himself increasingly annoyed by Andrew's continual recklessness. His son's actions not only threatened his position in the company, but also further tarnished his already dubious reputation. On a particularly tense afternoon, after a meeting with investors that almost resulted in the loss of an important contract due to the recent social scandals involving Andrew, Christopher returned home with accumulated fury. Upon entering, he found Andrew in the living room, laughing loudly while watching a replay of the news covering one of his disastrous parties. "Do you think this is funny, Andrew? You are ruining everything I've worked for," Christopher yelled, his voice echoing through the walls of the luxurious hall. Andrew, surprised and irritated by the interruption, replied disdainfully, "Oh, please, you only care about your business, and I'm just having a bit of fun. You should try it. Maybe you wouldn't be so miserable." Fun? Is that what you call your irresponsible actions that are destroying any chance we have of keeping our partners? You are a spoiled boy who never grew up. Christopher advanced towards Andrew, his expression increasingly enraged. The confrontation quickly escalated, with Andrew standing up and facing his father, his posture defiant. "Me? What about you? You're as corrupt as anyone. Don't pretend to be better than me." Christopher, unable to contain his anger, raised his hand and slapped Andrew across the face. The sound of the impact resonated through the room. "Respect me! I am your father and you should obey me!" Andrew, touching his reddened cheek, looked at Christopher with a mix of shock and fury. "That's what you think," he spat the words venomously, "but you don't control me, and you never will." The two men stared at each other, the air thick with tension and resentment. Finally, Andrew left the room, slamming the door behind him. Christopher was left alone, his heavy breathing the only disturbance in the silence that followed. In the days that followed, the relationship between father and son grew even colder and more distant. Christopher, feeling the weight of his actions, began to reflect on the repercussions of his leadership in the company and his relationship with his son. Meanwhile, Andrew isolated himself further, his actions becoming even more reckless and self-destructive. Feeling the pressure not only from the scandals involving his son, but also from the declining performance of the company, Christopher began to devise an audacious plan to secure his future and take complete control of the company. He started to seek allies within the company, manipulating information and creating a network of influence aimed at staging a hostile takeover of the board. He knew that if he could gain total control, he could shield himself and Andrew from any external repercussions, reallocating resources and influencing decisions in an even more autocratic manner. Meanwhile, Andrew continued to wreak havoc, his lack of awareness only exacerbated by the protection his status provided. In a particularly severe incident, Andrew was accused of causing a serious accident at an illegal luxury car race, resulting in serious injuries to another participant. Although he escaped legal charges through his father's influence and money, the incident further heightened public scrutiny and general disapproval towards the family. These actions culminated in a critical meeting at the company, where Christopher planned to consolidate his power. He called a shareholders' meeting, presenting a detailed plan that promised to rejuvenate the company, but would in reality centralize power in his hands. With promises of high returns and a new strategic direction, he hoped to gain enough support to remove any opposition. However, what Christopher did not know was that Benjamin, the man his son had offended, was the owner of the company he worked at, and that he was monitoring all of Christopher's movements with great attention. Benjamin, despite maintaining a facade of a distant investor, was deeply involved behind the scenes, preparing for an intervention that would restore ethics and morality to the company. While Christopher maneuvered his pieces on the corporate chessboard, Benjamin organized a counterattack. He had gathered substantial evidence of Christopher's manipulations and unethical actions, planning to expose them soon. Meanwhile, Andrew, oblivious to his father's larger schemes, continued to deteriorate his own public and personal image. Each of his actions only added more urgency to Benjamin's need for intervention, as he saw the destructive potential for his company, which had been built with hard work. Despite his success today, Benjamin's journey to success was very challenging. He was born in a small town, in a family with limited resources but rich in values and love. His father, Nicholas, was a factory worker who worked long hours to support the family, while his mother, Erica, despite being debilitated by a chronic illness, maintained the home with joy and care that transcended financial hardships. From an early age, Benjamin learned the value of work and responsibility. At 8 years old, he began to help his family by selling vegetables and fruits on a cart through the streets of his town. Little Benjamin not only helped to increase the family income, but also became beloved in the community for his easy smile and unwavering honesty. Benjamin's school years were marked by a balance between studies and work. He demonstrated sharp intelligence, especially in mathematics and sciences, and his teachers often encouraged him to seek opportunities beyond the limitations of his hometown. Inspired by their support, Benjamin dreamed of transforming his family's life. Upon turning 15, with his mother increasingly ill and the family struggling to pay medical expenses, Benjamin made a tough decision. He would leave school to work full-time. During this period, he diversified his small ventures, starting to sell not just agricultural products, but also small crafts that his mother made on her good days. Despite the adversities, Benjamin's home was a haven of love and learning. His evenings were filled with stories told by his mother, teachings about the importance of treating others with respect and kindness, values that deeply rooted in his character. After the death of his mother, Erica, Benjamin's family faced deep sadness, which was compounded by the subsequent loss of his father, Nicholas, in a tragic work accident. The burden of responsibility fell entirely on Benjamin's shoulders, who, at 20 years old, found himself as the guardian and provider for his 3 younger siblings, Danielle, Luke, and Sarah. Nicholas had dedicated even more to his work after Erica's death, trying to meet not just the financial needs, but also the emotional void left by her. His death not only shook the family emotionally, but also financially, as he was the primary source of income. With both parents gone, and no known relatives to offer support, Benjamin found himself in the position to lead his small family. He relied on his neighbors, who proved to be a vital support network. They helped not just with emotional care, but also with practical assistance, such as looking after the children while Benjamin worked. During this period, Benjamin strengthened his commitment to securing a better future for his siblings. He continued to work various jobs, from construction to delivery gigs. Each job was an opportunity to learn, and every penny earned was carefully saved to ensure the education of Danielle, Luke, and Sarah. Evenings were dedicated to studying with his siblings, reinforcing the importance of education as the key to success. He replicated the stories his mother told, teaching them about morals, ethics, and the importance of taking care of each other as a family. But as Benjamin saw that there were not many job or educational opportunities in his hometown for his siblings, he decided to make the move to the big city with his siblings. Benjamin was motivated by the hope of better educational and work opportunities. However, the reality they found was harsher than expected, marked by challenges that would test their resilience and determination. When Benjamin and his siblings arrived in the metropolis, they encountered a world completely different from their tranquil village. The city was noisy, chaotic, and packed with people from all corners seeking the same dreams. They initially settled in a small apartment in a less affluent area of the city, where the rent was more affordable, but the living conditions were precarious. The first months were a constant struggle. Benjamin tirelessly searched for work while taking care of Danielle, Luke, and Sarah. The opportunities he found, however, were in jobs that required long hours and paid little. His days started before dawn and ended well after dusk. He worked as a construction helper, carrying heavy bags of cement and bricks, and as a loader in a wholesale market, handling box after box of goods. Each job left Benjamin exhausted, but every paycheck was a step toward a better future for his siblings. He strived to maintain a routine that allowed him to take care of them in the best possible way, preparing simple meals, helping with homework, and ensuring that despite the hardships, they never missed school. The nights were short and the mornings rushed. Benjamin hardly had time to rest, but his love for his siblings and the desire to honor his parents' memory kept him motivated. On weekends, he sought to do extra small jobs, like home repairs in the neighborhood, using skills his father had taught him. Benjamin also began to participate in a local workers' cooperative, where he learned about labor rights and began to understand the importance of organization and collective advocacy. This experience was crucial as it helped him develop a social and political awareness that would later influence his business practices. Despite the adversities, Benjamin maintained an optimistic spirit and always found time to teach important values to his siblings, such as honesty, perseverance, and the importance of taking care of each other. He knew these values would be the true key to their success and happiness. As Benjamin approached his 30s, a new phase of life began to take shape. With Benjamin's continued support, his siblings had excelled academically and secured stable jobs, which not only allowed them to contribute to the family income, but also offered a measure of relief and pride to Benjamin, who saw his efforts and sacrifices finally bearing fruit. Seeing his siblings, Danielle, Luke, and Sarah, begin to thrive in their respective careers, Benjamin felt immense gratitude and relief. Danielle had become a dedicated teacher, passionate about making a difference in her students' lives, in the same way Benjamin had made in hers. Luke, with his engineering degree, secured a job at a major construction company, contributing to projects that promoted sustainable infrastructure. Sarah, meanwhile, worked in an art gallery, where her creative skills and passion for art were celebrated daily. With the family's financial situation finally stabilized, Benjamin could at last consider his own dreams and aspirations, something he had put on the back burner to ensure the well-being of his siblings. He began to reflect on the next step in his life, feeling for the first time in many years free to explore his own ambitions. During this period of introspection, Benjamin decided that it was time to pursue formal education in business. He enrolled in an evening course for business administration at a local university, where he quickly stood out for his acumen and work ethic. The course not only provided him with technical knowledge, but also expanded his network of contacts and exposed him to new ideas and opportunities. After completing his business administration degree, Benjamin began his journey in the investment world as an intern at a small but respected investment firm. Even in this initial position, Benjamin distinguished himself by his ability to analyze investment opportunities, not just for their financial return potential, but also for the social impact they could generate. He brought a fresh perspective to the team, integrating an ethical and sustainable approach in all his analyses and recommendations. Quickly, Benjamin rose to the position of financial analyst, where he had the opportunity to work directly in managing client portfolios. In this role, he began to implement his ideas of sustainable investments, proposing the inclusion of companies that were not only leaders in their sectors, but also demonstrated a real commitment to responsible business practices. His efforts soon bore fruit, resulting in robust financial returns and a significant increase in client satisfaction, who were increasingly interested in contributing positively to society through their investments. Benjamin's innovative vision did not go unnoticed by the company's senior executives. Recognizing his exceptional talent and leadership ability, he was promoted to portfolio manager. In this new role, Benjamin had even more freedom to shape the investment strategy of the company. Under his management, a considerable portion of the funds was reallocated to projects and companies that not only promised good returns, but also had a tangible, positive social impact. This strategy not only strengthened the company's position in the market, but also helped build a reputation for leadership in sustainable investments. Despite his success, Benjamin felt he could do more if he operated his own company, where he could fully implement his vision of ethical and responsible business. With years of experience and a network of contacts who believed in his work, he decided to found his own investment firm. Benjamin's company quickly stood out, attracting both investors and clients who valued the integration of financial returns with social responsibility. Benjamin applied a business model that invested in companies and projects that were not only economically viable, but also actively contributed to social and environmental well-being. In the following years, Benjamin's firm expanded tremendously, becoming one of the leaders in investments in the country. Its success was based on the belief that the true value of a company lies not only in its profits, but also in the good it does for the world. Under his leadership, the company not only generated excellent returns for its investors, but also had a direct impact on improving countless lives through its investments in technology, affordable housing, and educational projects. Benjamin transformed his life and that of many others, coming from a childhood of hardships and challenges to become a revered business leader known for his integrity and innovation. His success in the business world was a testament to the fact that it is possible to achieve financial excellence without compromising ethical and social values. With this solid foundation firmly established, Benjamin was well positioned to face any challenge, including the inevitable confrontation with figures like Andrew and Christopher. Returning to the present, a business dinner was organized at an elegant city restaurant with stunning views of the illuminated urban landscape at dusk. The event was designated not only as an opportunity for strategic discussions, but also as a social gathering where executives could bring their families to strengthen ties with the leadership team. Christopher, feeling the importance of the event for his career, decided to bring Andrew, hoping to show a more personal and familial side to his colleagues. Upon arrival, Christopher and Andrew were greeted by Benjamin, who presented himself with a calm and respectable demeanor. Andrew greeted him with a certain respect, not having recognized him immediately, as Benjamin looked very different from their first encounter, while Christopher greeted Benjamin formally, maintaining the appearance of an executive. During the dinner, the conversation stayed on light topics and business, with Benjamin showing a particular interest in the family members present, asking questions and sharing friendly stories. Andrew, meanwhile, tried to fit in, chatting with other guests, still unaware of who Benjamin really was, beyond a senior executive. At the right moment, when dessert was served and the atmosphere was more relaxed, Benjamin decided to make his revelation. He stood up, requesting everyone's attention with a delicate tap on his glass with a spoon. "Before we continue our enjoyable evening," Benjamin began with a friendly smile, "I would like to share something that many of you may not know. In addition to being part of the executive management, I have the honor and responsibility of being the principal shareholder and the owner of our company." A surprised murmur swept through the room. Christopher was very surprised, but for Andrew, who had just recognized Benjamin as the elderly man he had humiliated for hitting his car, the news was an absolute shock. Andrew looked at Benjamin, the surprise evident on his face. The man he had only seen as an elderly man in an unpleasant incident was, in fact, one of the most powerful men in the country and the owner of the company where his father worked. The revelation made him reconsider his first impression, marked more by the incident than by the true stature of the man before him. Benjamin continued, "I hope this does not change the way you, my colleagues and friends, view our interaction. I am here because I believe in our mission and the values we share. Let's enjoy the rest of the night knowing that we are all here for the same reason, to make our company thrive." With those words, Benjamin concluded his announcement, and the conversation around the table gradually resumed, now with a new respect and admiration for Benjamin. After the revealing dinner, Christopher and Andrew returned home. And Christopher, seeing an opportunity, decided to be open with his son about his more ambitious plans for the company. He took Andrew to the office, a place filled with symbols of his success and power, and closed the door with a serious but calculating expression. "Andrew, I know things have not been going very well between us recently, and I wanted to apologize for the recent events. My son, I want you to help me with something. What I'm about to tell you is crucial and must remain just between us. It's about the future of the company and, more importantly, about our future," Christopher began, looking directly into his son's eyes. Andrew, still thoughtful about Benjamin's revelation, now shifted his attention to listen to what his father had to say. He felt a mix of resentment and challenge grow within him, especially after being so humiliated to discover that Benjamin, the man he had underestimated, was the true power behind the company. Christopher continued, "Today we discovered that Benjamin is the owner of the company I work for, but he doesn't fully understand the realities of our business. His ideas, while noble, are too idealistic for our competitive environment. I have a plan to ensure that the leadership of the company passes into hands that truly understand what is necessary to thrive, to our hands." Hearing his father's words, Andrew felt a surge of excitement. The idea of overthrowing Benjamin resonated not only with his desire for advancement, but also served as perfect revenge for the embarrassment he had suffered. "I like this, Dad. Benjamin thinks he can control us just because he has money and some outdated moralism. It's time for him to learn a lesson," said Andrew, his voice filled with determination and a gleam of malice in his eyes. Christopher smiled, pleased with his son's quick response. "Exactly, Andrew. I need you by my side in this. I'll get you a position in the company so you can start to get more involved in internal and strategic operations. You'll have access to information and meetings that are crucial for our plan. Your task will be to help consolidate our power, both inside and outside the company." Andrew readily agreed without hesitation. "You can count on me, Dad. We'll show Benjamin and everyone else that they cannot underestimate us." With that pact sealed, Christopher and Andrew began to plot their strategy to realign the leadership of the company. For Andrew, this was not just a chance to rise to the top of the business world, but also an opportunity to regain control and exact revenge on the man who had unwittingly shown him how far he was from the true circle of power. The evening ended with a new sense of purpose and complicity between father and son, united not only by familial bonds, but by a shared desire to reshape the future of the company in their image. Christopher used his experience and established position within the company to solidify internal alliances. He organized discreet meetings and business lunches with longtime colleagues and influential executives within the company. In each interaction, Christopher reinforced ties of loyalty and dependency, ensuring the support of his allies for the decisive moment he was planning. Meanwhile, Andrew began to immerse himself deeper into the internal processes of the company. Actively participating in meetings and projects, he worked to create an image of competent leadership for himself, stepping out of his father's shadow. He strived to be seen as a capable executive, someone able to take on responsibilities and bring new ideas to the table. Manipulating information was another crucial aspect of Christopher and Andrew's plan. Christopher had privileged access to financial reports and performance data that could be interpreted in various ways. He carefully chose how to present this information, sometimes distorting it to highlight failures under the current leadership and to suggest the need for a new direction. Andrew assisted his father in this aspect, learning how data could be used to influence perceptions and decisions. In addition to strengthening their power base, they also worked to subtly undermine Benjamin's position. Andrew raised questions in meetings about the viability of the ethical and social investments promoted by Benjamin, suggesting that these choices, although noble, could compromise the financial returns in the long term. This strategy aimed to plant doubts in the minds of other executives and shareholders about Benjamin's leadership. Christopher, with Andrew's help, was laying the groundwork for a vote to change leadership. He was constantly reviewing the shareholder list, contacting those who could be persuaded to support their cause. The plan was to call an extraordinary shareholder meeting where Christopher would present his argument to be appointed the new CEO, claiming that the company needed a new vision to maximize investor returns. Every step taken by Christopher and Andrew was meticulously planned and executed with the utmost caution. Christopher's office became a true headquarters for strategy, where father and son planned each move with precision, always aware of the possible repercussions. The tension was palpable, as they knew that any mistake could topple the entire scheme they were building. As they advanced, the complexity of their actions increased, as did the audacity of their maneuvers. Both were committed not only to the success of the plan, but to the transformation of power within the company, a change that would define the future of all involved. The tension was in the air on the morning of the extraordinary shareholders' meeting. Christopher and Andrew, confident that they had consolidated the necessary alliances and prepared the ground for a leadership transition, walked together to the conference room. The plan, meticulously orchestrated over the past months, was ready to be executed. Shareholders began to gather in the room, murmuring among themselves, the anticipation palpable. Christopher and Andrew, exchanging looks of complicity, prepared to start the meeting that would consolidate their power within the company. Christopher was ready to present his argument about the need for a new vision of leadership, a speech he had prepared with great care, hoping to persuade the shareholders that change was essential for the future of the company. However, before Christopher could start the meeting, Benjamin entered the room, accompanied by some board members. His presence immediately captured everyone's attention, and a respectful silence ensued. Benjamin, with authoritative calm, requested to speak before Christopher could. "Ladies and gentlemen," began Benjamin, his tone serious yet calm, "before we commence the formal proceedings of this meeting, I have some important information to share with all of you." All eyes were turned towards him, the tension rising with each word. "In recent months, I have been informed of movements within our company aimed at a drastic change in leadership. These movements were not just part of normal corporate strategies, but also involved manipulations and hidden alliances with the goal of taking control of the company." Christopher and Andrew exchanged worried glances as Benjamin continued. "Aware of these efforts, I decided to observe and wait to see how these intentions would unfold. The dinner we organized a few weeks ago was not just a social gathering, but also a part of my assessment of the sincerity and ethics of the professionals in this company." Benjamin paused, allowing his words to resonate through the room. "I wanted to see how far this would go and how certain people would act under the pressure of their own ambitions. It was revealing and, I must say, quite disappointing." The room was in absolute silence, all eyes fixed on Benjamin and then on Christopher and Andrew, who seemed increasingly isolated. "Therefore," Benjamin concluded, "this meeting will also be an opportunity to reaffirm our values and direction. Transparency and ethics continue to be the cornerstone of this company, and any change in leadership must reflect these principles." Christopher tried to intervene, but the firm look from Benjamin and the murmur of disapproval from the shareholders made him step back. It was evident that the coup attempt had been exposed, and Christopher and Andrew's position within the company and among the shareholders was seriously compromised. Benjamin, demonstrating strong leadership and an unwavering commitment to the company's values, had not only neutralized the attempted power grab, but also reinforced his position as an ethical and respected leader. For Christopher and Andrew, few options remained, and they now faced the consequences of their actions under the disapproving gazes of those present. After the meeting, Benjamin acted swiftly to ensure that the company's integrity was no longer compromised. With the collaboration of the board and the unequivocal support of the shareholders, he initiated a detailed internal investigation. This investigation revealed a series of ethical and legal transgressions, including the falsification of documents, manipulation of financial information, and attempts at bribery. The evidence collected was overwhelming, and under Benjamin's direction, the company decided to hand over all relevant information to the competent authorities. Christopher, facing criminal charges for his actions, was eventually arrested. Christopher's downfall was news across the business sector, serving as a stern reminder of the consequences of corporate misconduct. Andrew, on the other hand, saw his life change drastically. With the family fortune frozen and later used to cover fines and other legal penalties, he found himself without resources. In addition, he was sentenced to perform community service. Although he did not face prison like his father, his reputation was irreparably tarnished, and he was forced to start his life from scratch, far from the luxury and power he was accustomed to. During this turbulent period, Benjamin kept his promise to lead with integrity. He approached Andrew, not with resentment, but with an offer of guidance. Benjamin believed that everyone deserved a second chance, especially a young man who had been so deeply influenced by his environment and by his father. "Andrew, you have a choice now," Benjamin said during one of their meetings, as Andrew was fulfilling his community service by helping with a sustainable housing project sponsored by Benjamin's company. "You can let the mistakes of your past define your future, or you can learn from them and start building something positive." These words echoed in Andrew's mind as he worked, surrounded by people striving for a better life. Gradually, he began to understand the real value of honest work and the positive impact he could have. Under Benjamin's indirect tutelage, Andrew began to transform his worldview. The story of Andrew and Christopher became a cautionary tale in the business world, while the company under Benjamin's leadership thrived, a testament to the power of ethics and social responsibility. Andrew, though he could never fully forget his past, learned valuable lessons about integrity, fairness, and the importance of making the right choices. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give a like, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Until the next story.